So the Megatins are dropping real soon, and I've heard that there are no Tearlaments cards included in the Mega Packs. Oh, and speaking of Megatins, guess what? My sponsor, CardBrawlers, now has pre-sales for the 2023 Megatins, and trust me when I say that you do not want to miss out on that. You can find some cool-looking quarter-century secret rares, including Cyber Dragon, the best card to ever exist in the history of the game. I'm not biased, stop looking at me like that. But yeah, link will be in the description box below as always, so go check it out. Anyways, back to Tearlaments. So when the deck got a hit last year, we all thought it was gonna die. Well, not in the sense that the deck is completely unplayable, but rather that it can't really compete with other decks. The Sprite deck was pretty good even without Sprite Elf because people were being creative and they were splashing other engines in it like Runic and For Hire. And Kashira completely replaced Tearlaments as the most represented deck by a long shot. Now, I think it comes to no surprise that the main reason why nobody really wanted to play Tearlaments after the ban list was because Kashira was so much better and it had a really good matchup against Tearlaments. I mean, Tearlaments always suffered from Shifter, so imagine having to deal with that and also a Rizard every single game. But to be fair though, outside of these cards, it's kinda hard to stop Tearlaments. Sure, we've got the Bestial monsters, but sometimes we might be in formats where the Bestials aren't that great. And Tearlaments doesn't really lose that hard to conventional handshops like Ash, Valor, Imperm, or even sometimes Droll. And its ability to chain block like crazy gives it a lot of resilience through some reactive negations. Not to mention that it's still Tearlaments since some people have actually been playing the deck since day one and they have a lot of experience with it, so they're really good with the deck. And that experience translates to a better understanding of the metagame, which also means better deck building. And because of that, we have really high level players like Shun Ping playing the deck and doing really well with it. I find it funny how at this point we're even able to count and distinguish the Tearlaments players from the lot because in the OCG the deck is completely mainstream. Like in the OCG the deck just went from tier 0 to tier 1, not really from tier 0 to like a rogue option. And of course this is because of a wide variety of reasons. They have Pepe Garuler, whereas we don't, and they also have Glow Bulb and Jet Synchron, and we only really have Jet Synchron. Which is basically Glow a Bulb, but at home. Like, instead of milling a card, which is actually good for you, you have to discard a card from the hand to the grave. But obviously, Tearlaments is still playable in the TCG even without these cards. And we can also say that we're blessed to have 3 Tearlaments field spells and 3 Reno Hearts because the OCG only has 1 copy of each. And of course, we have the best innovators and deck builders in the TCG. I'm totally not including myself or anything, no. But yeah, unless you've been living under a rock the past couple of weeks, actually that's me basically, you would know that Kashira has actually been losing a lot in popularity. That might be because of the fact that it's just a matter of time before we get a ban list and Kashira is probably gonna die, or because the newer decks are just more exciting and more hype and people are getting tired of Special Summon Unicorn effect and then pass on the exact same board every single time. Either way, this screams good news for Tearlaments. Their Kryptonite is now out of the picture, which means that all they really have to worry about would be the occasional shifters from decks like Rescue Ace, Flunderies, or Exorcister. And honestly, none of that is real. Nobody plays Flunderies or Exorcister, and I don't really recall the last time I saw a Rescue Ace deck list with Shifter. With all of that said, why be fearful of Tearlaments and what can they realistically accomplish? So first of all, even though the Shizu monsters are still limited, they still exist, so you can still get your cards shuffled and milled. And you know, if they get good RNG, they can mill both Kelbeck and Agido and then mill a bunch of cards and trigger all of their spell and shafts and monster effects. But they can also help you out because they're also milling your cards, so if you have graveyard effects, then it's not the end of the world. But they definitely play more graveyard effect cards than you do because they also run the Shaddoll monsters. Hell Shaddoll Hollow is actually a really good one because when it's milled, you're gonna be milling even more cards. Actually, this is quite similar to the effect of Tearlaments Kashira. But being able to play Shaddoll cards means 2 things. Number 1, they can make Winda. This really matters because regardless of the deck that you're playing pretty much, this card is nasty. And number 2, they can play Shaddoll Fusion, which is like an in-engine blowout going second. Like, they can summon Shikinaga by sending Hell Shaddoll Hollow and Agido or Kelbeck and then mill like 10 cards on your ass. With 1 card. Yeah. But the deck has so many layers of play that it's really difficult to know what to stop exactly. It's an extremely sporadic deck because their opener and end board are always completely different. That's due to the RNG aspect of pretty much everything about their deck. But the average still consists of a bunch of interruptions and, let's say, a trap card like Solic. Could also be the Crime or Meta Noise, but Solic is usually one of the better ones. Kid Kalos is no longer among us, but you can easily search your trap cards with Scream or Heartbeats by recycling back from the graveyard. But you know there is a card by the name of Trivi Karma that can search any spell or trap card that mentions Visa Starfrost from deck to hand. And literally all of them mention Visa Starfrost, including the freaking field spell. And see, that deck never dies. Regardless of how many times we hit it, they always get more support. And also be conscious of the existence of King of the Swamp. They can search Poly and then go into Guardian Chimera, destroy your whole board, and chain block like crazy, and you know you've lost when they start chain blocking like Chainlink 5. And they can also cheat out really good fusion monsters like the Grapha Fusion or Tearlaments Lulu Karos. They're also notorious for playing Super Polys, so be on the lookout for Muddragon, Garura, Starving Venom, Dragos Tapelia, etc. And because of their correlation with the Kashira deck, they also have inherent synergy with the Field Spell and Fenrir. These cards get them the Tearlaments Kashira, which makes them mail more cards and potentially gives them access to Draco Sack into Cherubini into Sprite Sprint. With that being said, even outside of Shifter, Arisart, and the Bestial monsters, the Tearlaments deck can still struggle against a few things. D-Barrier is pretty popular this format, and obviously this deck is a fusion-based strategy. They can still play under D-Barrier calling fusion because they can still make Time Thief for Doer and a couple of Link monsters, but it's not gonna be that huge. And they really struggle outing cards like Expurli Noir or just unaffected by card effect monsters in general, but they do have access to Underworld Goddess. And they can straight up send the Neshadoll Genius from deck or hand to the graveyard and then prevent the Expurli Noir from activating its effect. This affects the player, not the card, so regardless of the materials that Expurli Noir has, it's always gonna work. Now, the funny thing is, I just went over almost everything that the deck is doing, but I just scratched the surface. Ever since the ban list dropped, the Tearlaments deck has been kind of like an unsolved strategy for the longest time. But in the right hand, this deck definitely does have the potential to be absolutely devastating because we know for a fact that it can be really good since it was tier 0 before. And now also because of the drop of Kashira players, we can also see a rise of Tearlaments players. And you will have to be ready for that. Anyways, that's all I had for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.